Rabid Cyclist coming at you. This is going to be episode number 4 in our Bike Talk series here. Today we're going to talk about bottom brackets and cranks. Now, you all know what a crank is, or at least I hope you do. It's where you put your feet down on the pedals and you go like this. You crank away and you turn your motion on the cranks into power that goes to your rear wheel and sends you on your way. That's what a crank is. A bottom bracket is actually the piece of your frame where the crank itself sits, where the arms of the pedals move and all that. And I got an example here. This right here came off of a mountain bike, as you can kind of tell by the 3 sets of gears that are on it. This is actually the drive side off of a crank, off of a bottom bracket, and usually this side will have a cup on it that is non-adjustable, meaning once you put it in there, you don't mess with it. You always adjust the tension on the what would be the left hand or non-drive side. And usually this is just a cup or some sort of cup arrangement or possibly something else. There are bottom brackets that have specific pieces into them, and I haven't experienced it. The one I built, and just this last weekend I rebuilt my bottom bracket, and so I know a little bit about it. But the left hand side will usually have a cup on it or some sort of adjustable unit to where you can adjust the pressure on the crank arm so that it spins loose. Because if you tighten it down too much, it's not going to want to spin very well. Too loose, and it's probably going to cause you issues down the road. This one also has a ring on it that just screws down on top of it, and you get that done and get that as tight as you can. It'll keep that side from wiggling loose. Sorry, hurt myself. Okay. Now, your average bottom bracket will consist of 3 primary components. You'll have the left side pedal arm, the shaft on the inside, and then you'll have the, like I just showed you, you'll have this drive side crank arm. Now, a word about crank arms. Occasionally, drive side rims, such as this, will actually have this pedal assembly here as a separate unit that comes off. I've yet to run into them, but I have seen them. It will have its own tool, and we'll be talking about how to remove these here from that side, from the crank or the shaft. Sorry. Oh, what you mad at me, Pooh? My dog, everybody. Come here. Say hi. Yeah, good girl. She's not been feeling good today. Okay. Most of these tools that I'm going to tell you about, you can get them from just about any bike tool manufacturer. I'm going to give you links in the description, tell you about 2. There's Park Tools, and there's one called Pedro's Tools. There are other bike tool manufacturing companies out there, but the ones I tried to get to were not very navigation friendly. And to be bluntly honest, even Park Tools could stand to be a little more user friendly. I would like to be able to buy my tools straight from the manufacturer, bypassing bike shops and whatnot and getting them straight up. Now, it's not to say that I don't like shopping at a bike shop or anything of that nature. In my opinion, if you can go somewhere, buy a tool or buy something from a brick and mortar bike shop, do so, because those guys, their profit margins are usually quite thin. And like just recently here, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I think, a bike shop up on the east side was actually burglarized, and the guy and the burglar, you see on video. If I can find a link to this video, I'll post a link to it in my comment section. The guy came in and was in and out in under 45 seconds. He knew exactly what he wanted. And to me, that tells me he was a person that had been there before, cased it, knew where the bikes he wanted to steal. And the bikes he ended up taking were 2 fat tire bikes. Salsa Verdes, I think. I'm not sure. But, yeah, those bikes are really expensive. And that can mean the difference between, making sure that the guy has all his bill paid and a little bit of money left over, or okay, do I have to go get a loan to get some money so that I can pay off my bills? But anyway, Most, like I said, most bottom brackets are three-piece. I will put some pictures up and show you, like this one here I'm going to put up, uh, the basic concept of a bottom bracket. It is not hard and fast. This is how they all are. Some have different teeth or splines on the end for specific tools or for specific types of um, cranks, not cranksets, but chain ring. The gear I showed you earlier, that's a chain ring. I'll show you in another video what the rear cassette is, or rear cluster, depending on where in the world you're from. It's not too bad. Uh, most of the time, you're going to run into to bottom brackets that have bearings. Now, prior to, I think it's like 1990, 1991, sometime in that range, most bottom brackets, if they had bearings, they were loose, which means you had to assemble it, put it in there, pack with grease around it, make sure it stayed in there, and then use your rod, your cone in your cup to make sure the bearings stayed in place. Sorry about that. After 1990, it was found that just a lot of people were doing it wrong or packing too many bearings. You might think, well, how can that be a problem? Believe me, it is. It can cause some serious damage. I lost a photograph of what happened when you put one too many bearings into a bottom bracket, and it quite literally just chewed right through that axle, and the guy suffered some, I wouldn't say damaging personal injury, but let's just say his ability to have relations with other human beings was probably compromised that day. That's how bad and painful it got. But most often than not, bikes these days will have cage bearings. Now, cage bearings, you've probably seen these. They'll have ball bearings in a little circle with small bits of metal holding them nuts completely together, but just so that they don't fall off, move around, and generally cause problems. There will usually be two. I have seen what to me looks like a unit that actually has four sets of these cage bearings. Why you would need them, I do not know. I honestly, personally believe they don't make any sense whatsoever. But as a general rule, you're going to have two sides on the, like I said, the adjustable and the non-adjustable side. More often than not, you're just going to want to take the adjustable side apart, pull it off, pull the bearings out if you've got cage bearings, clean them, grease them, shoot some degreaser in there, swab around in it with a shop rag or something on a small piece of metal. A cut up spoke works really good for this. You can swab it around in there, really get up all the excess moisture and stuff off. And with the hook part of a spoke that comes when it latches onto the flange on the hub, that's also a great thing for going in there and fishing out the bearings, the cage bearing piece, or any other pieces that may need to be fished out. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, friends, sorry about that. We're talking about, installing cranks, and two tools that you're going to need are a crank puller and a crank wrench. Now, I'm going to put up the crank wrench first. What you see there is just basically a tool that's like a crescent wrench, but it's got a socket on it, and that socket is to pull down a bolt that screws onto the shaft of the axle and pushes the crank arm, whether it's the drive side or non-drive side or not, pushes it on there and tightens it up. Now that's its job. That tool's sole job is just to take that nut off and on. Now, you may notice that on the tool itself, it has like a knob or a piece of metal on one side of it. That's for a adapter, so that you can take your torque wrench, put your little adapter socket on there, put it on there, and tighten it down to a specific specification. It could be 30 pound, 40 pound, 50, 150, who cares? It's there so that you can get it down if you're obsessive with making sure everything's tight enough, but just tight enough. That's what it's used for. The next tool we're going to show you is actually the crank puller. Now I'm going to show you two different ones. This first one is put out by Park Tools. You'll notice, and I'll put a link in the description. Check on the link and go around and you'll see the things I'm about to tell you. But it essentially involves a large piece that screws down with a central shaft in the middle. Now when you take that piece and you screw it into the arm that you just took the bolt out of, but the whole crank arm won't come off, you screw that down there as tight as you can get it, finger tight is just fine. Crank it down as much as you can. Then with the tool that's left and kind of dangling, you want to thread it. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. As you thread it, going clockwise, it actually pushes that shaft in, which in turn causes the whole crank arm to come off. Now, there's no need to use this thing in reverse. In fact, you can't, because it'll just sit there and you'll waste time and make yourself look like an idiot, like I did. But you want to use that tool for that reason. It works on both the drive side and non-drive side. A word though about bikes and thread direction. Now, you may think everything is righty tighty, lefty loosey. Well, it's not. On the drive side, the non-adjustable cup, like on my bike and on a lot of others, actually tightens in reverse. Instead of going this way to tighten, it goes this way towards the back of the bike. And then when you put the thing back in, it tightens up towards the front. Or no, loosens up to the front, tightens up to the back. And it's done that way so that pedaling doesn't cause some sort of sympathy action, and it works its way out. On the non-drive side, it's just how you do it. Righty tighty, lefty loosey, it does not matter. On the non-drive side, you will need a specific cone wrench that they make for bottom brackets, and I'll give you a heads up right now, folks. That wrench is incredibly thin. It's only about maybe 2/16 of an inch to 3/16 of an inch thick, maybe. And you got to get it lined up just right and pull. But be very careful with how much pressure you put on, because if you don't do it right, it will slip off and you will bang your knuckles. On the non-drive side, yes, you'll have that retaining ring I told you about, and there is a tool for it. It'll either have one tooth, it'll have notches all the way around it, and you'll either have one notch that you can engage or on the tool, or up to 3. Now, if you're one of the lucky ones to get blessed with a tool that will hook onto 3 of those notches and crank, count yourself lucky. My particular bike and the tools I was using at the time, I only had one tooth available, and it kind of was a pain in the butt to get that thing on there tight or loosen it. Now, I went and did all this down at my local bike collective. You might call it a bike kitchen or a community bike shop. Look online for it. Here in Salt Lake City, we have Bike Collective, and they have, I think, a shop up in Ogden and one in Provo. I'm not exactly sure. I'll put the link in the comment section. You can figure it out for yourself. The only reason why I go down there is the tools I do have, I live in a small 900 square foot apartment with 4 people. My wife, my son, my daughter, my dog Mitty, as you can probably hear her going off, and my cat Sweepy. And it's not convenient to bring those in. We can't even bring in all our furniture. We've got a couch and a love seat, and the love seat, as big as it is now the couch, because we just don't have room for anything else. So I have to go down there, and community bike shops like that are just fine for that reason. You buy a membership to them, you can have all the shop time you like. In an ideal situation, I'd like to have one where I could have a storage locker to put all my tools in, lock it up as tight as I like, and then just go and pull my tools out. I know what quality and condition they are, and go from there. But anyway, if you're going to do tear down or change the bolts or your crank arms or teeth, whatever, do yourself the favor, go the whole hog, pull everything completely off, find I'll show you a picture. It's called a crank arm cutter, but this also has the job of basically refreshing the threads inside of the bottom bracket, and the tool actually has 2 specific working heads that are marked drive side or left side and right side. I mean, you know what I mean. You want to make sure you put them on there, liberally coat them with cutting fluid, and they spin in one direction, so that and once you get them completely all into where the working piece of the tool disappears inside completely, you're done. Then just back them out, and I did this on my bike. I had some troubles getting that one drive side cone cup off, or bearing cup off, and when I finally got it off, part of this cup had been stripped. It had been cross-threaded, and the threads were very gritty. I wiped them out, and they still felt gritty. After I used this tool to freshen up the threads, I turned it like this, and the thing spun for a few seconds. It was cool to watch. Any of you who have seen a tool that's or a part that's just frustrated you and you've gone in, sanded it, or done whatever, and it spins real easy, you know what kind of a sensation that is. It's just cool as hell. I did that. Do yourself a favor and do that. Use that specific tool. I'll put it up here in the. I'll put a picture up on it here for you. And just as you know, uh, part of this tool's job also is to freshen up uh, the surface of the bottom bracket on the either side of it, so that, like, with that non-adjustable cup and the adjustable one, they've got a flat, good surface to seat against. There are other tools that do similar items in different areas. There's one that if you've got a disc brake equipped bike, you put this tool in the dropouts. Once you get it adjusted, you can turn it from one side, from one part of the tool where the mount is to the other part, and it's going to be the same. So it'll be perfectly parallel. And you just spin it a few times. You grind away a little bit of metal until you get a nice, shiny, solid, smooth surface. You're done. Tools like that exist all over, and it is an expensive tool. I will not lie to you. I believe there are $100 plus for the crank version. Now, for the disc brake one, it might actually be a lot worse. Is it worth it, in my opinion? Yeah. If you are fastidious about your bike maintenance like I am, I would. I would love to use my own tools, but I can't realistically bring any here. I mean, I suppose I could. If I had a trailer big enough to haul them, I could pack them all onto the trailer, bring it home, work on them, take them back. But it's not practical. I know some people, well, take a trailer down there. I mean, it'd be good exercise. Yeah, there's good exercise, and then there's just practicality. I would spend probably the better part of 2 days just getting tools there and back and working on it. So that's why going and getting a membership to your local bike kickstand, or in my case, the Bike Collective, works. Now, as far as what sort of materials you need if you're just going through and freshening everything up, usually you just need cage bearings or loose, depending on your specific needs or wants. If you're replacing a bottom bracket with a new one a newer type that will fit in, generally the manufacturer's instructions will tell you what you need. You want some good quality grease. You don't have to use cycling specific. I do recommend it, but it's not a requirement. There's a particular guy down at the Bike Collective who he is one of those guys that he's had nothing but good success with that kind of red grease you get from shop grease guns. He's used that, and it's all he uses. Well, that's fine. I mean, if it's what you use, it works, and your parts aren't wearing out, go ahead and use it. There are bike-specific greasing guns, and gun would be a bit of a misleading statement here. It's more of a grease fitting. You take the fitting, put it onto the tube of grease, and you can pump it. And if I can find and get a picture of it, I will show it to you on my next one and as an addendum. And it's very easy. It'll load grease on there anytime. And it does the same thing as a grease gun. You put the nipple, or you put the fitting from the grease gun onto the nipple, pump it, and usually you stop pumping when you hear like a cracking sound, like grease is starting to slowly ooze out. That's when you stop. Some bikes give you this option, others don't. When you're working on a rear cluster, this may or may not be a good thing for you. Me personally, who cares? I mean, once I get the grease flowing out of there and I can see it and everything looks fine, I'm going to be good to go. Alright? Hang on a sec. Okay, there we go. That's pretty much it for this episode. There's not a whole lot else I can tell you about, working on your cranks or whatever. I do recommend that if you're going to invest yourself into doing your own bicycle repair work, get yourself a shop stand. Do you absolutely positively need one? No. Is that thing a blessing in and of itself? Oh, dear God, yes. How many of you have had to work on your bike, flip it upside down so you can get the wheels off? Wouldn't it be really nice just to put it up on that lift, or put it up in the stand, clamp it in place, pull it out? That way you know okay, this piece went here, it was fine, this piece went here, you know what it was, and you've got the directions you're supposed to crank on things done. And that's fine. Like I said, I'm going to leave you the links to two of the major bike tool companies, Park Tools and Pedro's. Navigate around their sites, see what you like. Pedro's has a slight edge in and of the fact you can actually buy tools right from the website. Park Tools, they prefer you go to a distributor and get them, although from what I've seen, they're missing out on some business because I'd dearly like to buy stuff from them, straight up, bypassing stuff. I'm going to go to the shops to get bike shops to get me like patches, glues, tires, a new set of cranks. Whenever I will patronize brick and mortar shops whenever I can, because I mean they run on such tight margins, it's just disgusting, folks. I'll support them when I can. However, bike tools, there is usually no margin. If they do, it's a very small one, or they get some sort of incentive kickback, and it's usually not much. Besides, I don't like paying more for retail if I can get it wholesale, I will. I know it's kind of a hard thing. Well, you want to patronize a brick and mortar shop, but you also want to buy wholesale. How do you? It's how I deal with things. I prefer to buy my tools wholesale. Everything else, I'll go to a retailer. It doesn't bug me. It doesn't bother me a bit. Excuse me. But that's another thing I want to talk about in this section here. Get to know your bike shop. Find the ones in your area. Just up from where I live is Saturday Cycles. They are open from 12 o'clock until, I believe, 6 in the afternoon. It's not open all that time, and that's fine. That's what they do. Apparently, they've been in business for a while, so whatever they've got is working for them. We also have a lot of other bike shops here in town. We've got Performance Bicycles down on 21st, just west of the 21st South Track Station. You can see it down there. We also have Bingham Bicycles, Salt Lake Bike Company. There's just a whole host. I'll put the links in the description and you can check them out. I will go where I get good customer service. And with one rather glaring exception, most bike shops are okay. Would you want to go there and have your bike worked on? If you know the person behind the desk or if you get a good vibe, be my guest. Me? No, I'll do my work myself. I prefer doing it that way. I can't blame anyone but me when a part breaks. Because one time I didn't. I was told basically I couldn't, do anything legally about it because parts break. Well, yeah, this particular part, was installed upside down, which in cycling is a bit hard to understand, but the part did have to be installed right side up. As a result, it broke. It didn't already cause damage to itself, but what it did do was shred a relatively brand new rear wheel I got. So, and that's not a tire, it's just a rear wheel. I was able to walk home and found out that the individual in question had several other complaints and had been fired. And they were willing to give me a nice discount on a rear wheel. Okay, this guy who was your employee screwed it up, and you're going to give me a discount? No, replace what he damaged. But ever since that incident, I do my own work myself. Some of you may not have that option. Maybe you live like me in a small apartment and you just can't do your own work. Or maybe, sad as this is, maybe you're living in a city where there are no community bike kitchens or bike collectives or anything of that nature. Well, that stinks. Even better reason for you to do your own work. A very small basic toolkit for the average post ride, tighten things up, check everything, make sure everything's good, isn't going to set you back much. And for the advanced home mechanics, it gets progressively more expensive. Me, on the other hand, I am missing about a dozen or so tools from having everything in one company's specific product line. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to give them a free ride on this. It's just I have tried others. I have tried Parks, Pedro's, others, and value for money. This company here has given me good service. So, as a general rule, the old adage, you get what you pay for. It's as true as in bicycles, as it is in grocery shopping, as it is in car maintenance, as it is everything else. I mean, and this is not to sound crude or anything, but the old adage, if you want to know what the wife's going to look like in 20, 25 years or so, look at the mother now. All I can say is I dodged a bullet there, and we'll leave it at that. But, I put in the investment, I put in the time, and I've got a good wife. By that same event, you're going to put the time and investment into working on your bike, making sure that it gets the best care you can afford for it, and it may not be the absolute best care. It's what you can do, and it's going to work. Now, when I rebuilt my bottom bracket last weekend, there's some sort of possibly a clicking sensation or something that only crops up when I'm pedaling, but I'm not sure if it's because I'm pedaling or if it's something else. I'm gonna have to take a look at that and just it could be something as simple as as I'm pedaling, the crank arm is hitting the kickstand. A slight word on kickstands. Should you use one? Yes, you should. It's gonna say wear and tear on your machine. What kind of kickstand should you use? Ironically, there are several. There's a specific type that is like yours. It's right next to the bottom bracket. You click it out, and your bike kind of leans over. There's another one that some mountain bikes use, and other bikes use that it's near the rear end, and it flicks out. There's a third type. I haven't been able to find pictures on it, but I have seen it. It's basically like like two legs that swing down, and when you pull them down, the bike stays upright without having to lean one side or another. And then when you want to go, you just push forward, and the very action of pushing forward causes the kickstand to come back up. So there's that. Um, Other than that, there's not much else. I mean, not really for this episode. Haven't been able to get in touch with a few friends to set up some interviews. I do apologize about that for you folks. I do have an addendum. In my last video, a friend of mine, who's a friend of mine on Facebook, asked me if it was possible if a inner tube was cracked around the stem to fix it. I told him, no, it's not worth your time and trouble. Simply go out and get a new one. I would like to add the addendum here. Is it possible to repair something like that? Yes. Will the repair hold? Probably not. If you're doing it to get home and you don't have a spare tube, be prepared to keep inflating that thing every few minutes. But as far as a fix, like putting a patch on a hole in your tube, no, it's not going to work. Well, yeah, I can't think of anything else other than, be safe out on the road. Look over your left shoulder. God bless. Thank you.